Please like and comment on the video below. That will allow me to produce better quality videos and more of them in the future. If you're interested in learning to trade successfully on sports, then why not visit the BetAngel Academy, where we have more detailed videos. So I thought I'd do a video in the garden deliberately here to make a bit of a point. Somebody said to me the other day, they said, oh, how do you cope with your job? You know, such unsociable hours, and you know, you can't do all the things that ordinary people do and stuff like that. And I sort of said to him, well, you know, I'm not sure that I have an issue with that, but not from a personal perspective. I can give you some reflection here on why and I think that, and also why my attitude to what I have to do is different from what some people would position it as. So, you know, yes, I work on Saturdays. Yes, I'll do bank holidays. And I gear everything that I do around all of the key sporting events. So that does dominate my life. That is a key part of everything that I do. But everybody knows that. There is no sort of pretense that somehow I'm missing out, because everybody knows, you know, if Ascot is on, you know, they may go to Ascot, but they know that they probably, you know, there's no point in inviting me because I'll be on the other side of it. However, we'll swap texts, we'll talk about it, I'll see them in the evening, and we'll have a good chat about the whole day, give them a few tips, as everybody always asks for. But, you know, if you're looking for some secret sauce in terms of how you're going to do well at something, there's a really simple tip that I can give you about how to perform and excel at everything that you do. And it's just 2 words: hard work. You know, whatever you do, if you work really hard at something, you're probably going to do pretty well. You can't guarantee yourself success, but if you work hard, then you're going to put yourself in with a really, really good shot of doing an absolutely fantastic job. And if you enjoy it, you'll probably do even better. And it was a revelation for me about many years ago. I used to think that, you know, hard work could overcome everything, but I did realize that actually enjoying something was an important part of being able to work hard and doing a good job. And the fact is, I would recommend to somebody nowadays that if you enjoy what you do, then don't worry about the money, because it will just turn up, because people will come and find you. And it's the same with when I deal with other people. If I think somebody is passionate about something, I know that they'll do a good job, and therefore I'm willing to pay for that. I never go for the cheapest thing. I'm always willing to go for somebody that is going to do a good job and that is passionate about what they do. So anyway, hard work, that is my #1 tip there. Whatever you do, whether it's, you know, gardening or building something or whatever, if you put a lot of energy, effort and passion into it, you're going to do a good job and people will pay you well for it. So anyhow, that wasn't my point. My point was about unsociable hours and the lifestyle of a trader. And some of it comes down to what do you want and how you're going to manage that. Because every morning I get up and the first thing I do is go for a walk, and I'll go out and do some exercise or something, because I realise that for most of the day I'm going to be sitting down on my bum. One of the great things, innovations that come along recently, is the Apple Watch, because this gently prods you and reminds you about what calories you're taking in, how much exercise you've done, whether you've stood enough and things like that. And I think it's great. Now, I always thought I was quite good at that, but this has made me better. So I always go out of my way to get that part of my life balanced out correctly. If you don't do that, if you're not healthy, then you're going to suffer necessarily. So yeah, it's important to get those things right. Now, in terms of workload and stuff, you know, I work a lot more during the summer than I do in the winter. So in the summer, I'll probably earn 3 times as much as I can in the winter. So I really go for it. I throw everything at it in the summer, because in the winter, I can just do whatever I want. It doesn't matter. But the fact is, actually, when you're your own boss, you can do whatever you want anyway. And that was one of my objectives from when I was very young, was to be my own boss. I thought that if I could choose to do whatever I wanted to do and however I wanted to do it, you know, what freedom that would bring. And the fact is that one of the benefits of being able to do that is it opens your mind to everything else as well. So you learn very quickly that having that space and freedom frees up your mind. You're not anxious or worrying about things that may or may not happen, that you have no control over, and you just do a much better job. So yeah, I think it's very beneficial to be able to have that freedom. And the fact is, it's under your control. You're not obliged to trade the 3:30 at Ascot if you don't want to. If you're not feeling great, you can just get up and walk away. And now and again, I do that. You'll see the pattern of activity rises and falls for me, and that's because I know some things just aren't worth it. It doesn't matter how much energy and effort I throw into it, it's not going to make much difference. So you have that choice as a full-time trader. You can do whatever you want, and you can walk away from the screen if you so wish. But going back to the unsociable hours bit, I just don't buy into that at all. And I don't buy into the fact that it is unsociable hours, because have a thought for the people that work in retail. I worked in retail back in the early 90s. And in fact, when I was at college, I used to help run a petrol station with a friend of mine. And the fact is, those are unsociable hours on poor pay. And you shouldn't feel sorry for a sports trader, because sports, if you really throw a lot of effort into it, you get paid really, really well. So don't feel sorry for me, or don't feel sorry for anybody else that does this full time. But do feel sorry for the person that you're giving grief at that store because the item you bought doesn't work, because they're getting paid a low minimum wage probably, and they have to work all hours God sends and unsociable hours. And those are the people that you really need to think about, working in retail, in a factory, doing night shifts and all of that stuff, and not getting paid that much. They don't have freedom, they don't get paid that well, and yet they're tied into that cycle. There's nothing that they can do about it. And I empathise with that, because I came from that background. When I was working in retail, they were thinking about introducing Sunday trading, and I almost got sacked from the job because I went on to BBC Radio to complain about it. And the point I made was, okay, so Sunday trading is exceptional now. In 10, 20 years time, everybody will expect you to be open on a Sunday. And you may not be obliged to work on a Sunday, but if you don't, you're never going to get on in your job, and you will never, and you're not going to get paid any extra, and it's just going to become another day of the week. And that's pretty much where we are now. I got a lot of stress from doing that interview, but I stood up because I just thought, well, where do you draw the line? I was already working Boxing Day, New Year's Day, most of the bank holidays, because they were big shopping days. So, I felt that pushing people to do Sundays as well was just a step too far. So I stood up against it. But it wasn't many more years later until I left to work on the other side of the industry, supplying retailers. So ironically, I was still involved in retail one way or another. And it's funny actually, because in that role, I had a lot of empathy for people working at the store. So I would often go and do events with them. I could have just delegated that to my team, and they could have run off and done events in store. But I would tend to go along as well, because that was actually something that made me good at my job, was that I'd worked at the shop floor level, and I'd worked all the way up into boardroom level. So I would regularly go up and down that entire chain, because that you really know what's going on when you're at the front end of everything that's going on. And I felt that was important to do, and I also wanted to empathise with people who were doing that. Now here's a great little story for you, because when I was in Croydon and going around doing some store visits, because we used to check stores, check that the merchandise was done properly, and all sorts of other stuff. Long and complicated, not going to explain it properly. I met a guy in one of the stores in Croydon, and I just thought, this guy stands out. I recognise this guy because he's doing the same sort of thing as me. He's acting the way I would if I was in his position. So when I went back to the store group's head office, they were saying, oh, do you know anybody that's pretty good? And I said, I know just the guy for you, and he's in your Croydon store, but I don't know how you're going to get him to move over to the head office, but you should definitely interview him. So they interviewed him, he got the job at the office, gradually got more and more senior in that company, and now he's a CEO of a large listed company on the stock market. So you see, what goes around comes around. If you help people, then these people, and you spot these people, you need to take time to work with special people, as it were, then it pays you back a millionfold in the future. So yeah, I have a good relationship with this guy who's the CEO of a senior retailer. And that all happened because I took the effort to try and pluck him out of obscurity. It wasn't me, but I was part of that chain that allowed him to move up and out of that environment. And do you know why I did it? Because somebody did it to me. Somebody spotted me, gave me the opportunity, and that's how I live my life now. So yeah, the point of it is really that, yes, we have to work unsociable hours, but we are our own bosses. We get paid a lot of money for doing this particular job. And I wouldn't change that for the world. That's everything that I wanted. In terms of having to work odd hours, I don't see that as being any sort of an issue at all, really. I don't think in those terms. And you do whatever the job is in front of you. Would a Premier League footballer complain about playing on a Saturday or playing in a Champions League final? No, he wouldn't. So, you know, with a job comes responsibilities, and you have to fulfill those responsibilities as the best you can. But I don't want anybody feeling sorry for me or saying, is that disrupting your life in some way or another? Because no, it isn't. You know, what was more disruptive to me was when I was working for a retailer in a job that I didn't particularly like, for money that was absolutely rubbish, and working for a boss that I hated. You know, that was stressful, difficult, and you could empathise with me there. And I think you quite rightly have the right to complain about the role that you do. But, you know, not now at all. And, you know, if you work, you have to work hard on everything. You have to work hard on relationships with your friends and everything, whether you do this sort of role or not. That's life for you. I think the thing that probably you should empathise with professional traders on is the wild mood swings that you get. You know, when you do fantastically well, you get a kick from that. You get a natural high. But when things are going badly, you know, you begin to doubt if you've lost your edge or not. Now, I've never felt like I've lost my edge, but when the market shifts or changes or something unusual happens, you do have those little moments where you get frustrated and annoyed, and you begin to have those thoughts. However, you know, you introduce coping mechanisms, and I think that's the thing you need to be more worried about as a trader. If you're going to commit to it and you're going to do it properly, you're going to have to accept all of the things that go with it. But the thing that you'll find difficult to control and that is difficult to come with is these wild mood swings that you tend to get, especially when you're starting out. You don't know if you're doing the right thing or not. When people come and talk to me or ask me for advice, you know, one of the things that I say is very difficult for them is, you know, you have a strategy that takes you from here to there, and that looks great, and that's what most people see. If you look at my P&L, it's a wonderful graph. My equity curve is beautiful. But what you don't see are all of the little bits in between. And you can see that reflected in the market on a minor basis as well. You very often see the market wobbling around all over the place, and you can see people falling into that trap and expressing those emotions 1,000 times in 10 minutes. And you can't afford to do that. So yeah, I think, you know, mentally trading is a stressful and difficult game because of the way it messes with your mind. And I think that that's where you should feel a little bit of empathy, but don't feel it for me. Feel it for people who are going through that experience, trying to establish themselves. But in terms of the sociability side of it, the hours that you work and the type of days that you work, don't feel sorry for a sports trader. Feel sorry for the people that have no choice, working in an industry where they're forced to do that, where they're not getting paid much, and they're probably working for a total arsehole. So anyhow, you know, somebody mentioned that to me this week, and it just resonated with me, and I thought I'd do a little video for you in the garden. I mean, how many jobs can you do where you do that for a living? Anyhow, I'm off to start trading in a second. The racing starts in about 10 minutes, and I'm going to do what I can this afternoon. No idea where I'm going to end up or down. I should end up, hopefully, just a question of how much. So I'm going to go on there and enjoy the afternoon's racing.